Hi guys, my name is Yuri and you can reach me at yuri@buildhello.ca. Today I want to show you guys what happens when you upgrade Xampp and some of the changes that you can make when you upgrade Xampp. So first of all, what is Xampp? Xampp, MAMP, LAMP, and WAMP are different programs that you can use for a localhost server when you are doing web development. So LAMP would be the one that you would use for Linux, and when you are using LAMP for Linux, you are going to want to have a different configuration setup. You're probably going to be using chmod for Linux, and when you are using WAMP, you're probably going to be using that with Windows, and MAMP of course is for Mac, and Xampp is for all of them. So I'm using Xampp. I could be using WAMP because I'm working on a Windows machine. So I installed this with chocolaty. This is the most recent version. I recommend installing Xampp with chocolaty. When you are going to make your changes, if you have Xampp already, you want to rename this directory here. This is a folder on your computer, on your primary hard drive that you're using. And if you rename this folder, when you install Xampp again, you will be able to keep the websites that you had in your original HT docs and just move them over to the Xampp, and also transfer any of the configuration files if you want to transfer some of the configuration files. Now, I actually, because this is a newer version, it's a newer PHP version, would expect configuration files might be a little different, so I wouldn't recommend copying the files from the old version to your new version, but you can make some of those changes that you're typically going to want to make. And we're going to make some changes right now. Now, I've just made those changes already, so I'm just going to run you guys through the changes that I made, and we will take a look here at Xampp. So the first one is in this Apache directory. In the Apache directory, we have the conf file, and in here we have http conf, and this is where we're going to change our ports. So it's basically our localhost port. So it comes with port 80, and that could conflict with some other ports. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to 8015, which I have just done. So it's in two spots on this file. I'll have a look at the lines here. You know what? Let's turn on the keycast as well. So we can have a look at what we are doing here, and we will just minimize this guy so I can have my mouse back, and then it's back again. So yeah, we won't there. Okay, so now you can see that we have the localhost here. So we've made changes. We made two changes in this file. We've changed the localhost. This number is arbitrary. You can add any number that you want to have in there. So that's http conf. We're also going to make some changes to the secure http, this one, http DSSL conf. And again, this one comes with the default is 443. We've added a 14 on the end. And I've made changes to every instance of 443 to 44314 throughout this file. So just go ahead and make that change as well. And now we are going to look for Php Dot Ini. So we'll go into our PHP file. Now remember, when you're installing Xampp, it's going to give you SQL, MySQL, and it's going to give you PHP and a lot of other programs here as well. FileZilla, Perl, there's some Perl code in there. Tomcat. We're not going to worry too much about those. Just remember, this is an Apache server, and we are going here into PHP. So we're going to look for the Php Dot Ini file, and that's the configuration. And we're going to make some changes to postmax size. So this is going to be a lot smaller in the default installation, and we have boosted this up. That uses extra memory, but we have enough memory. So this is maybe larger than it needs to be. But that's the change that we're going to make. And the next change is going to be upload the max file size. We're going to boost that up here to 800 megabytes as well. Max execution time. Really a lot of max execution time, max input time. These are much larger likely than they need to be, but we're just going to change these numbers. You'll see the default is not the same as this one. So now when we have the memory limit, we've increased this as well. So now we have the memory limit is increased, and we are going to take a look at PHP MyAdmin configuration file. So let's go ahead to the PHP MyAdmin config, and with the PHP MyAdmin config, and look for the PHP MyAdmin configuration. So this should be the config inc.php, and we'll just go ahead and correct the config inc.php. So we have a blowfish secret here, and this you really get this online. And this is where I got it. Oops, let's just go ahead and have a look at that. So we will go ahead and search for that online, and it should give us a blowfish secret generator. We can go ahead and just grab this code right there, and then close that out, and that would be the blowfish generator. So when it originally arrives, it arrives as Xampp, and we are going to change it to a little bit of a larger configuration here. And so let's just go ahead and oops, add a comment here around that. And so the config is if you are using MySQL through the command line, and cookie is when you are using MySQL through the server or through the browser, which is php.myadmin. Now, you do want to have a password when you are using your SQL database, your MySQL database. You always want to have a password. Again, we have found this password just by going ahead and searching for it online. So just going ahead and search for password, and we find a password generator, and we get a password. Strong random password generator. This is the one I just used. And just beat that up to 12. Always it should be 12 for any password. And then we go ahead and generate a password. So any password that we want to use there is fine. And so we have generated that password. And of course, that's going to be a private password that we're going to use. And we're going to go ahead and install that password. Now that password is the same password that you're going to introduce with your WordPress installation. If you are using WordPress, because the WordPress will need access to the MySQL database, and that's what this configuration is securing through the PHP MyAdmin config. It's securing that password. So we also want a user which is non-root, and that user will be for the specific case of WordPress accessing the database. Now we're leaving this root because this is for the PHP MyAdmin is accessing it at root. Of course, because the WordPress is going to be accessing a database, that database is likely going to be password protected as well, and we will be specifying that. So let's not worry about that password. We will just leave the password like this and ensure that on our SQL we have the port specified at 3306. So once we've specified that port, that's pretty much all of the changes that we need to make in config inc. We can delete this, we'll just leave it, and go ahead and have a look at the next configuration file, which I guess is likely my.ini. So this would be actually in the SQL. So we'll have a look in MySQL. Have a look in the MySQL file, and there should be a my.ini in here, but it's actually in the bin now with the upgraded Xampp. So we're going to go ahead and have, now we can make a lot of changes in here. I haven't made any changes in here, but you can increase this to 8, you can increase this to 32 or 64. You can increase this key buffer size. And the only change, you can increase these changes down here. Of course, you want to read what changes you're making, and definitely look into your MySQL configuration if you want to learn more about this. These are just from a front-end developer perspective, the changes that you can get away with making. Now, when we want to go ahead and make these max allowed packet, this is your MySQL dump. So if you have a plugin on WordPress that's backing up your WordPress, and there are recommended plugins for that, that plugin is going to dump the SQL database. From there, you can access it with a program or with your computer system, and you can make changes to, you can flush the database, you can make changes to the database, you can examine the database, you can clean the database out. But if you have a really large website, that database is going to be a little bit larger as well, so you'll want to increase this. So at the default, it's at 68. We are going to just bump it up to 32. That's the max allowed packet. Those are the changes that we're going to make in my.ini. And I think that's all of the changes that we want to make. And there's one more. We can go ahead now and we can launch the Xampp application. And you can see that it has started up. Now this, I clicked on space here. It's already selected to the config. So if I click on space, it'll open the configuration. And that's what we want to do. We want to look at this service and port setting. We want to ensure that these are set to the changes we made. For the main port, 8015, and for the SSL port, we added a 14 on the end. Those numbers, again, were arbitrary, but it's necessary that they are consistent throughout the configuration files. Also, this is the default setting, but if you change the default port, we want to make that port, and then we also have the FileZilla ports as well, which we're not going to worry about because we are not using FTP in this case. But if you are deploying a WordPress from a local host to the host, you would of course want to ensure that you are deploying with an FTP program or with a Git program. So we're going to go ahead, save those and save these, and we'll just stop and start these again so that we have the local host is working. We'll just close this. And so now we're in the htdocs, and we should be able to go ahead and access the local host. And you can see that we are in the local host now. It's our browser. We have localhost 8015, and this has opened up the index file. This file right here has launched. So this is a file that you can always have it launch here if you want, but I typically don't like to do that. But from here you can access PHP MyAdmin. And of course, we entered root as a username. We didn't enter a password. If we did have a password, that's where we want to put PHP MyAdmin. And here we're going to create some tables for our WordPress installation. And we could have a lot of WordPress tables here based on the settings that we've made in the configuration. Well, we can have a lot of WordPress files here. We just have to make sure when we do the configuration in WordPress that each one of these is unique so that they can be accessed. And when we get to that, we'll have a look at that. But for now, just know that this is how you would access MySQL through PHP MyAdmin. And if you wanted to access your MySQL through the command line with another program, then you'll want to change that configuration file from config to cookies, and we are not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to sign out of this guy, and we will go back to the localhost. It should open up to dashboard if you click this. And what we're going to do is we're going to change that dashboard. So we'll just rename this to index1.php. And when we return to the dashboard like this, you should be able to see the actual files here. You should be able to see the directories that we have in our htdocs. So we're going to go ahead now, and we can go ahead and we can make some more directories here. We can call this website 1. We could have another website 2. Those are our websites that we will be working on. And let's do a final test of an HTML, a test of the HTML file, just to see if we have the server working. So we will, first of all, let's make this an HTML file, or let's move this to HTML mode. So we are in HTML mode here, and let's go ahead to company drop down, and then we will get some HTML. And we will call this configuration. And then we'll just get rid of that. Okay, so we should have this HTML file in here. We'll add a div in here. And just leave it like this. And we will add a p tag in here. We'll call it a paragraph. And we will add some more ifs in here. And let's try this. File run. And okay, so now let's go ahead and click in here, and we'll introduce a style tag. And we will style the body. And we'll add some background. And we will make that background. And that should be fine for the background. And we'll go ahead and style also this class and the paragraph within the class. And we will give this a max width of 50%. And we will give this a background color of white, and we'll give this a color for the text of red, and we'll give it font size of 2 rems, which is pretty large font size. And so there you go. That should do it. Let's do one more thing just to ensure that this is centered. We will add a margin. And that will be 0, 1, auto, 0, and auto. And that will give us margin. Okay, so that's some inline styling. And we now will have a look at our website. So we should be able to just refresh this and see our HTML page. Go ahead and load that. And there we go. We have a website. So you can see that localhost is working, and that is where we are going to install our WordPress, and we're going to do our WordPress development through our localhost. Of course, we're going to have this configured with live reload. We want that configured with live reload. Now, in this case, I've just upgraded the Xampp program from a previous version, so we wanted to make those configuration changes, and we know that it's now working. We have the latest version of PHP on our localhost server. So that's how to install Xampp, which you would do through Chocolaty, and to ensure you have a working configuration. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.